Is anybody there? Oh, hi! Welcome to SABnessful, where I review films and TV shows and give my honest opinions that no one really cares about, but will give anyway. Oh, I didn't look up how to say the name of the film. Let me do that real quick. Folie de pronunciation. Of course. Why is there no audio? Okay, there's no audio. I'm gonna use my phone then. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Folie. Did do it?
As well as to say more confusing vocabulary.
I don't like his voice.
So make sure to stay tuned to the channel.
I don't like his voice at all. Makes me uncomfortable.
Say it as.
Okay. Today, I'll be talking about the 2024 musical Joker Folie à Deux, which for the rest of the video, I will be referring to simply as Joker 2. And wow, there are a lot of songs in this movie. I thought people were joking about it, but literally every 10 minutes there's a song, and I was not expecting that. Now, I'm no composer, but I do think there could have been better ways the songs could have been incorporated in the film, as well as just some other things I changed, but I'll get into that later on in the video. Without further ado, let's get jiggy with Joker 2, spoilers abound. Joker 2 opens with a Looney Tunes inspired animation of Joker showing up to his own talk show, where his shadow comes alive and causes mischief and tries to take over. Foreshadowing, anyone? Once the animation is over, we see Arthur in prison where he awaits his trial. We see him in his cell, getting shaved, and noticeably very quiet. The guards poke at him, though not his face, trying to get him to say a joke, but he stays silent. We then see Arthur being walked to Arkham's psych ward, asylum, whatever, I'm going to say psych ward, where we first meet Harley Quinn, though in the film she's referred to as Lee, who's singing in a choir with other patients. As Arthur passes, he makes eye contact with Harley, and she steps into the hallway and pretends to shoot herself. The first moments of love. After that, Arthur meets with his defense attorney, where she goes over his taped meeting with a doctor that will be used to test his competency, where if they find him competent, he'll be going to trial, which, spoiler alert, they do. It's pretty clear during this interaction that his attorney generally cares about him and believes he needs help rather than being locked in a cell. Something that comes up a lot throughout the film, especially during the trial, is the possibility that due to Arthur's childhood trauma, he creates another identity as a form of protection, this other identity being the Joker. One of the meeting's objectives is to figure out whether this is actually the case, or if Arthur was actually competent / in control the whole time he was committing his crimes. And this is pretty much the main debate used during his trial later on. Don't kick the camera. Oh my god, it's so bad. Oh my god. It's not even on the ground. No, I'm shooting that. Fuck, okay. After his meeting with the doctor, we see more scenes of Arthur in prison, just being in prison. The guards then take him back to the psych ward where they have him join the choir. This allows Harley and Arthur to chat, where Harley tells Arthur that she grew up in the same neighborhood as him and that she used to go up those stairs all the time. She also tells him that her father abused her and that he died in a car accident and that her mother had her committed after she set fire to her parents' apartment. She also tells Arthur about watching him murder the TV host Murray from the first film and how that made her feel.
And for once in my life, I didn't feel so alone anymore.
After this, Arthur and the other inmates are watching the news, which is about him, and this is where we get our first true musical number. Arthur starts singing and dancing around, singing a cover of Stevie Wonder's For Once in My Life. Which, side note, I didn't realize most of the songs in the film were covers. I thought they were all originals, many being from the time period that the film takes place in, which is the 80s and late 70s. Just a fun little tidbit there. Anyways, Arthur is clearly happy about his interaction with Harley. However, this number, which goes on for quite some time, is revealed just to be an illusion inside Arthur's head and didn't really happen. This is where I think the musical numbers work best. It helps shows how Arthur feels while also showing his insanity, as it would be crazy to start singing and dancing around a room full of inmates, and really just shows how detached Arthur is from reality. This new enthusiasm even makes him want to talk to the press that is constantly outside the prison wanting to talk to him, but his attorney quickly shoots that down. Later on, Arthur is back in the psych ward and watching a film with the other patients. Arthur's content watching the film, but Harley has other ideas.
Great artist at the peak of his powers, the new Tony Hunter. Tony Hunter, 1953. What can I do?
Valid point there. But Harley's very determined to get out of there, so she sets a piano on fire. And she and Arthur use this to escape the building in another musical number. Unfortunately, I can't really play any of the musical numbers because I don't want this video to be copyright claimed, though my channel is not really big enough to worry about that. After their number, they are caught trying to climb the fence, and Arthur is thrown into his cell. There's then another musical number with Arthur and Harley, even though we literally just had one a minute earlier, though this is just a dream and he is woken up by Harley.
One of the guards let me in.
She tells him that she's being sent home as Arthur is a bad influence on her. She also brings makeup and paints Arthur's face as Joker, and then they do it in the cell. This is one strange love game they're playing. Arthur then goes through another taped interview, though with a reporter this time. He's asked to talk about the night he killed Murray, and Arthur leans into the mentally unwell angle.
I don't really remember much from that night. I blacked out, saw bright lights. I was having a hard time knowing the difference between what was real or not.
Eventually, he gets angry at the reporter as he only wants to talk about Arthur's crimes, while Arthur wants to talk about how he's changed and who he is now. This makes the reporter bring up Harley, who's been doing a lot of interviews with the press, though we don't see any of those. Arthur starts singing again, but this time for realsies, singing about his love for Harley. Same Harley, same. Also, Joaquin Phoenix, not a bad voice. Anyways, Arthur is taken to his first day of trial and sees that many of his supporters have surrounded the courthouse. Also important to note that his trial is being broadcasted so the general public can watch. And of course, Harley arrives to watch the trial right after singing a solo. During the trial, different experts and witnesses are brought in to testify, and the lawyers do their thing, going back and forth as to whether Arthur was in full control of his actions or if it was Joker and Arthur was hallucinating / blacked out. Side note, why is the prosecutor so smug in literally every scene he's in? I just want to smack that smirk off. After one of the days of trial, Harley confronts Arthur's attorney while she's talking to the paparazzi, saying that she's making him look like an idiot and that she doesn't know who her client is. This makes the defense attorney then talk to Arthur about Harley, where she reveals to him all of Harley's lies.
Did she mention she went to grad school for psychiatry? But she didn't grow up in your neighborhood. She lives on the Upper West Side with her parents. Her father is not dead. He's a doctor. She voluntarily committed herself to the hospital and then just checked herself out.
Oh, and would you look at that? It's time for another musical number. This time, Harley and Joker are singing together with their own talk show. And again, this goes on for a long time. Though at the end, Harley ruins this perfect illusion by pulling out a gun and shooting Arthur, which is a nice way to show Arthur's doubts about Harley and his bad romance with her. More scenes of Arthur in prison, though look, he's made a friend. His name's Ricky. Hi, Ricky. Arthur then gets a visit from Harley and confronts her about lying to him, and she doesn't deny this.
I just wanted you to like me.
She even confesses to committing herself to Arkham just to meet Arthur. Arthur mentions that his attorney says that she's just playing him, to which prompts Harley to put a wedge between them.
Can't you see what she's doing? She doesn't care about you. I do.
She then brings up that she's pregnant, and oh look, she's singing again, and so is he. Wonderful. What a happy family they'll make. Another day at trial, and this time Sophie, Arthur's neighbor who he had many delusions about in the first film, is put on the witness stand. And we find out what happened to her after the events of the first film.
After Arthur did what he did, the press wanted to talk to me about it. Then all these people, supporters, I guess, like the people outside, started showing up at my work and harassing me, blaming me for what happened to Arthur. So I was afraid for my safety and for my daughter's safety. We moved out of the city.
While being questioned by Arthur's attorney, Sophie reveals that Arthur's mother told her that she made up a story when Arthur was a kid, that he was put on this earth to make people laugh, so that he wouldn't harm himself due to his laugh condition. Sophie also reveals that Arthur's mother couldn't believe he based his whole life around a made-up story. This naturally makes Arthur sing another solo. Just dance, Arthur, it's gonna be okay. Do-do-do-do. This is a delusion, of course, but what is real is that he fires his attorney, which delights his supporters, especially Harley. When Arthur goes back to Arkham later that day, the other inmates cheer for him, especially Ricky. Aw, look at him living for the applause, applause, applause. Ricky then starts singing about the Saints marching in. And is it bad that I don't know what that is? Is that referencing something? Though Ricky gets a little too carried away and the guards restrain him violently and attempt to quiet everyone down, but to no avail. The next day at trial, Arthur dresses up as Joker and fully represents himself. The witness this time is Gary Puddles, also from the first film, who witnessed Arthur murder Randall. Joker, whoever, questions Gary in a very weird accent that I don't know what it is.
Tell me, sir, is that your God-given name?
During the questioning, Arthur really leans to the Joker character and goes off about how no one knew he existed and constantly underestimated him. But now everyone sees him as the Joker. He even goes off about the guards at Arkham.
Those goddamn fat, stupid guards at Arkham that think that they can treat me like trash.
Throughout Arthur's questioning, he's pretty harsh with Gary, which leads to my favorite scene.
Why are you doing this to me, Arthur?
What? Gary, I like you. I told you I wouldn't hurt you, and I didn't.
I couldn't go back to work. I still can't sleep. And I'm scared all the time. scared right now here. With you in front of me.
This emotional outburst from Gary takes Arthur back and he immediately ends his questioning. Gary leaves and the prosecutor says they have no more witnesses and rests their case. The judge then tells Arthur he can mount his defense, to which Arthur replies with,
The defense rests as well, Your Honor.
The trial recesses and you know what that means, another musical number. Woo! And oh my god, this number goes on forever. There's even a tap dancing scene. Why? And look, I get this number is really theatrical because Arthur's really feeling himself, but it did not need to be this long. Once Arthur gets back to Arkham, the guards beat him up over what he said about them during the trial. After beating him up, they throw him into his cell, and Ricky, seeing this, starts singing about the Saints marching in again. This upsets the guards, specifically Mad Eye Moody, and in a fit of rage, he strangles Ricky to death. Wow, that was really heavy. Time for a Harley solo! Anyways, Harley shows up to the courthouse in full Joker attire, and Arthur gives his closing statement.
I wanted to come out here as Joker and blame all of you and everyone for this miserable life. But it wouldn't matter because I can't do this anymore. Because I can't be who you want me to be. It was all just a fantasy. There is no Joker. It's just me.
Oh, wasn't expecting that direction. That's actually really interesting. He basically confesses that he made everything up and even confesses to killing his mother, which no one besides Harley knew that she was murdered. This confession makes Harley and some of his supporters walk out the courtroom. The jury deliberates and comes back with the verdict, and to no one's surprise, Arthur is found guilty on all charges. As the verdict is being read, Arthur has one of his lasting fits and the courtroom erupts in chaos, and then literally erupts. Arthur stumbles out the courthouse and one of his supporters grabs him and puts him inside a car. Though Arthur doesn't stay for too long. He finds his way to the infamous stairs where he finds Harley. He tells her that they can go away and be together, but she rejects him.
All we had was the fantasy, and you gave up. We were never going anywhere.
Not the same guy you fell in love with. And the same guy that murdered Marie Franklin.
No. No, you're not. There is no Joker. That's what you said, isn't it?
And then she starts singing again. Arthur is then arrested and brought back to Arkham. And then he's stabbed by another prisoner. But don't worry, he doesn't die just yet, which means we get one more number, baby. And then he dies, I think. The end. Definitely not the ending I was expecting, but I actually kind of liked it, which brings me to my likes. Okay, so the songs. I get what they were trying to do with them, and in some aspects I did like them, that they're delusions and used to show their insanity, and are used to reflect what Arthur and Harley are thinking, and I do think there are moments where this really works, like the first one where Arthur does the Stevie Wonder cover, or the moment in the number where Harley shoots Joker showing his doubt in her. Those moments worked well, but I think for the most part the songs fell flat, which I'll get into later on. I really liked seeing the characters from the first film be brought back in and be witnesses in the trial. It was fascinating hearing their perspectives, and it was great finding out what happened to them after the events of the first film. And I really liked how Gary's statements affected Arthur. I thought that was a great character moment for him. As mentioned, I like the ending. I think it's really interesting that basically this film is an alternate reality where the Joker doesn't exist, like he almost does, but ultimately doesn't, and I really respect the story for taking that direction. I think it was really cool. My favorite character is Harley Quinn, and though I could have used less of her singing, I really like the film's take on her. I like how she commits herself into Arkham, and it's implied she's obsessed with Arthur because of his potential, and is fascinating to her from a psychological standpoint, instead of just blind love. It was actually really fun seeing how she was manipulating Arthur, and that you could never really trust what she says, nor really ever understand what her end goal was, and I think that worked for her character. What I think I like most is that she's on the same level as Joker, that in many ways she's just as crazy as him, but also super smart. She is a psychologist after all, and I like that they showed how smart she was through manipulating Arthur. It was kind of cool seeing Harley pull one over on Joker for once. Now for my dislikes. I don't like how Arthur came to the conclusion of confessing. At least I don't like how it was shown in the film. The way it's shown, it makes it seem that when the guards beat him up, that's what made him switch, and yes, his friend Ricky was killed by them, but I feel like that would have fueled him even more to become Joker. Which a neat direction the film could have gone is that maybe Arthur was intending on confessing, but after the guards beat him up and kill Ricky, he decides instead to fully embody Joker, which would have worked if they decided to go in that direction, but they didn't. The songs, oh god, the songs. I've already said, but they're just way too many and they go on way too long unnecessarily. And what was with that tap dancing scene? What did that bring to the film? And Harley singing pretty much every time she's on the screen. Like, we get it, you had Lady Gaga in the film. She doesn't need to be singing all the time. But my biggest issue with the songs are the underscore. They're just too happy, too perfect, and these are not perfect people. And when it's contrasted with a very dark and eerie setting, it just doesn't work. Granted, contrasts like these can be really effective, but here I just think the contrast is just too big, and so I don't think it works. I also didn't like that there was just a whole lot of nothing. It's a slow burn film, I get that, but do we really need so many scenes of him in prison or so many interviews with him? I think there's more interesting stuff that could have been shown instead, which I'll get into in just a minute. Now for my least favorite character, it's the prosecutor. None of the characters are poorly written, I just didn't really like his attitude and constant smirking. Moving on to how I changed the film, first some clarification, I have not read any of the DC comics, so I do not know how much, if at all, of the film is based on them. I am just going off of what is presented in the film itself and changing what I think would make the film stronger. So with how I changed the film, I don't think it needs a full rewrite, but I do think some things need to be tweaked, some things added, and some things taken away. So with the switch of Arthur deciding to confess, I really don't like how it's shown, so I change it in one of two ways. First way I do this is that instead of the guards beating him up, I just have them say how disappointed they are in him. They actually seem to like him and give him a ton of privileges because of his good behavior. So when they see him really lean into the Joker character, they realize he hasn't changed and that boy really is a monster, and they tell him such. I'd also make them nicer in general for this to work. This would work well with the scene of Arthur questioning Gary. Arthur is clearly taken aback by how he hurts Gary, even though he never intended to. I'd also emphasize more how he hurts Sophie, someone he was fond of. She does talk about having to leave the city, but I feel like the film could have really emphasized more the danger that she and her daughter were put in since so many people blamed her for Arthur's actions. And just like Gary, she's also scared all the time. So with the combination of Gary and the guards being hurt by him, people who actually liked him, and him putting Sophie in danger, someone he was fond of, he realizes he hurts the people who actually cared about him. And remember, he went off about no one caring about him, so him realizing that there were people who did and he hurt them, that would be a great reason for him to confess. The other alternative that I think could work is that maybe he sees how the Joker character is negatively affecting the city and those around him, that it's leading to lots of riots and violence. Ricky would actually be a great character to show this. As the trial is going on, Arthur is leaning into the Joker character, which Ricky is watching on TV, which leads Ricky to start acting like Joker as well. Maybe Ricky even goes far as to kill one of the guards as Joker. And that's the reason why he's killed. Arthur would see this, showing Arthur how horrifying Joker is and what becoming him leads to, making him not want to be him, which is why he ultimately confesses. Either way, I think one of those two directions would have worked better than how they showed it. I'd also in general add in scenes of what's going on in the city. As mentioned, there's a lot of Arthur in prison, and I get he's the protagonist, but there's so much going on outside the prison, and I wish we could have seen that. I'd add scenes of Harley giving interviews and rallying people. That way we could see more of her just being interested in the idea of Joker, not Arthur himself. I'd also add scenes of Joker's supporters, scenes of them rioting, as well as fighting against the city. That way it makes it that more crushing when Arthur decides to confess Joker is not real. We could even add in scenes or shots of Sophie and Gary reacting to his supporters in horror, or perhaps being antagonized by them, further emphasizing how he hurt them. Overall, I think adding in these scenes outside the courthouse and the prison would really raise the stakes across the board and leave a bigger impact to Arthur's decision. I'd also make the prosecutor less smug. This take on a prosecutor is just so tired, and I'm tired of seeing it. I wish she was more like the defense attorney. She was at least genuinely trying to help and do what she thought was right. It could actually have been a neat dynamic if the prosecutor was more like that, clearly trying to bring justice to the victims. More nuance with both sides having valid points, which to be fair the prosecutor does, he's just so smug about it that you just kind of ignore them. Now in terms of changing the songs, less is more, so I definitely would cut a few and make the ones that do stay a little shorter. Again, for me the underscore is the real issue here. It's just too happy, and I'm not a composer, but what I would have done with the music is add in some offbeats. Throw in a high-pitched note or something offbeat, something that hints that something's not right. I'd especially do this with Harley, since she is manipulating Arthur. All the underscore when she sings should have something eerie to them, or some type of sound that would have made it seem like something is off. That would have made the songs work better in my opinion. Oh hi there, it's editing Sab. So upon further inspection, I did notice that in some of the musical numbers there were a couple seconds where the underscore does get eerie. It's subtle. This is actually a screenshot here where this does happen. This only happens a couple times, so I would still make it more prominent and happen throughout the numbers, especially when Harley sings. Also, my lighting looks like shit towards the end of the video because I was using daylight and the sun was setting, but I got lights for Christmas, thanks brother, so that won't be an issue anymore. Anyways, back to the video. That or make the musical numbers get more and more insane as the film progresses, showing the spiral of insanity. Just go all out, go crazy with it. Kind of like what they did with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn in The Suicide Squad, which I could make a video about. It could have been really fun actually if the musical number scenes got crazier and crazier, showing the spiral of insanity. And it's this spiral of insanity that Arthur feels that helps contribute to him deciding to confess in the end. He sees where it's going and he doesn't like it. And that's how I changed Joker 2. Overall, I did appreciate the slower storytelling, that it was just on the trial, which I didn't realize it would be. I went in thinking we see more of Arthur becoming Joker, building off of the ending of the first film, but that's not the direction the film went, which again, I did like. I just think the film overall needs some more polishing. And that's all I have. Please make sure to caress that subscribe button. I could really use it. And fondle the bell notification because my upload schedule is kind of out of whack right now and I don't know when to upload next. Anyways, bye!